Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Brad Holiday. Welcome to episode 1 of the Own It podcast. And I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend, Anthony Hughes. What's going on, my brother?
Hey, Brad.
Yo, good seeing you. If you don't know about Anthony Hughes, he started his successful law firm when he was in his early 20s, I believe, mid 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And he grew it to massive success. He exited from it. He built his empire at enhancedathlete.com, which is a highly successful supplement line, arguably the most successful supplement line. There it is right there. Still successful after all these years, after all the legal battles that he's gone through. The guy has gone to bat for PEDs and been a major advocate for use of anabolic steroids and SARMs and stuff like that. You know, we wouldn't be where we're at in the PED world without this guy. So, you know, if you use him, this guy deserves massive credit. Not to mention, the reason I have this Anthony on is because, I mean, not only is he a good friend of mine, he's done a lot for me as well. He's got
it's one of the ways we try to break the steroid taboo.
Out right now. Oh my God, dude. This guy is the man. But this is episode 1, and I couldn't have a better guest to kick it off with. Welcome, Anthony Hughes. Thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. You know, we did our first interview probably 2.5, maybe almost even 3 years ago, kind of at the beginning of Enhanced Athlete when it first was on the rise towards its boom. So that was fun, and a lot of people really enjoyed it, and you asked good questions and gave people good perspective, and so looking forward to do whatever I can to help you further the mission of increasing the quality of life of men in America and worldwide.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, there was a question I wanted to ask you right off screen, but maybe we should build to that later. But first of all, you know, this podcast primarily I want to focus mostly on entrepreneurship, because I think there are a lot of guys out there who want freedom. They don't want to have another man tell them what to do. They don't want to have a boss. They want to more or less live their life on their own terms, and they don't really know what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And I have my own suggestions because I've been, in business for myself for 7 years. But, I'm just curious for you, what was it that started your journey in business? Why did you want to start your own law firm? I believe I've asked this of you before, but I'm just curious what your answer is now.
Well, entrepreneurship is all I have ever known. I came from a family that was divorced, and so I had a mom and a stepdad and a dad and a stepmom, and 2 different sort of perspectives on life, but both entrepreneurs. So my father was a real estate developer and investor, and my stepmom was an interior designer. My mom was an interior designer and owned her own florist shop, and also came from a long lineage. Our entire family, all the way back as far as we can document, was entrepreneurs. My grandfather owned a bar that was super successful, was able to retire at a young age and sell the bar. My great-grandfather was a real estate developer in the very early years of America. My stepdad was an engineer that designed water treatment plants, always self-employed. So that's all so that covers it. I think that covers most everybody. But that's all I know. So I grew up, I didn't even know how do you get a job? I've never done a resume. I don't know how to work for someone else. I did try it a couple times I worked for FedEx and I worked for a telemarketing company. But everything else I've done, I mean, my first job, I'd say, was I would buy candy for wholesale, and I would sell it on the school bus in 5th grade. Third grade, I started selling candy on the school bus. So that's all I knew is you buy something in bulk that's kind of how I started. You buy something in bulk for cheap, you split it up, and you sell it in smaller increments for a markup. You keep the profit, you reinvest the money into more inventory, and that's what I started learning in 3rd grade. And the motivation at that time was because I figured as I did that, then as I built inventory and I sold it, I could either make the choice, and this is still how business is today, I could either make the choice to reinvest all that money in the business, or take some of the money out for myself as profit. So usually I would reinvest all the money, but then as I would make more money selling candy, I started taking money out to buy things for myself. So like I remember like my first big purchase in third grade using the money from selling candy was a pop gun, where it's a gun, but you just pop like that and it shoots a cork out. So it had a big impact because it was like I bought my own pop gun. It wasn't from allowance, it wasn't from anything, it was from candy sales. But I reinvested the money into candy sales. So then fast forward, I was an auto broker. I built computers. I did mortgages, real estate stuff. I mean, I've had so many different businesses, I can't even remember them. I'd have to spend a whole day trying to write them down. And then when I was going to become actually, I went to law school, which I didn't intend to be a lawyer. That was in order to give me the skills to be a better real estate investor. But then when I graduated law school and passed the bar exam, I was like, hey, actually I can make a lot of money being a lawyer. So I put an ad up on Craigslist and started taking clients. And so I never had a fear. I think a lot of people have a fear of being an entrepreneur. There's a barrier to entry because most people are raised by parents who are employees with an employee mindset. And America in general used to be of an employee mindset. It's transitioning. Entrepreneurship is becoming cool, whereas it used to be that being an entrepreneur, until you got to the point of being successful, you were a loser. Everybody looked down on you like, oh, they're just trying to get away from getting a real job. It's a bad cop-out. That's how it used to be. Wow. On purpose, because that's how they were trying to keep us in control in corporate America, is to discourage entrepreneurship. And now it's being encouraged. Now you have thought influencers and books being written about it, and it's becoming the cool thing. But I want to make one very important point at the beginning of this. I didn't know what we're talking about. So entrepreneurship, got it. One very important point, not everybody's cut out to be an entrepreneur. And a lot of people are seeing the dream of being an entrepreneur and they want it. They almost feel entitled to it because it's becoming so popular, and they're crashing and burning. They're blaming other people. And it's actually gone the other direction, where I think the majority of people that are trying to become entrepreneurs are failing at it, blaming other people for their failure, and not understanding what it really takes to be an entrepreneur.
It was funny. I was actually about to ask you that very question. I was going to ask, do you think, anybody can be an entrepreneur? And if so, what do you think the main qualities of an entrepreneur are? Like what, I have my own answer to that, but I'm curious what do you think that the most important qualities and personality are for somebody to be successful working for themselves as an entrepreneur?
Well, so America and the current culture, it's different in every culture in the world. But in America, you actually have the best opportunity to be an entrepreneur, but you're also the most brainwashed against being an entrepreneur. So the problem is that people don't understand how much hard work it is and how you have to really be a man and take responsibility. The American culture right now is to not take responsibility. And so to get rid of that complete mindset and change your mindset towards a leadership mindset and an entrepreneur mindset where you're responsible for everything, I think the most successful entrepreneurs, anything that goes wrong, they take responsibility. Whereas employees, anything goes wrong, it's someone else's responsibility. I'd say that is the number one factor. Now, there's lots of other factors, like what is your morning routine is a big buzzword in the industry now. Your regimen, how many hours you sleep, how as effective is your mental effectiveness, and your networking ability, and all these things. But what it really comes down to, the fundamental part, is taking responsibility.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I speak to guys all the time who want to do their own business, and it's like, they're shocked at the fact that they actually have to pick up the phone and sell. They're shocked at the fact that they actually have to fix the problems in their business and like you said, take complete ownership of all the problems that come up. I mean, it's for real. It's not like, for instance, like I don't moonlight. I don't have a job. I've been doing this by myself for 7 years. And, if my business fucks up, it's on me, like all the bills fall back on this. And I think that's what most people kind of miss that, I think. but you've obviously you've succeeded massively in both of your businesses, and I think there's also a gap. Just sticking with entrepreneurship for a second, there's a gap between regular entrepreneurs and people that really break through, and they're multimillionaires. They're people that break the 7-figure barrier. Do you have any insights about breaking through from 6 figures to 7 figures? What it takes? Is there something? Is there a psychological shift that occurs, or is it just picking up the phone and making more sales, just being more aggressive in sales? What is it exactly?
No, but it's interesting because you keep mentioning the word sales, and that's probably the most important part. I mean, everything in business comes down to sales. So that's the right word. I'll use an example because I think of this all the time. This is something that my dad taught me. Because remember, I was raised in an entrepreneurial setting and culture, and I thought my dad always wanted to own like chain restaurants, and my grandfather was obsessed with Sizzlers. He owned a Sizzlers, and he wanted to open a whole bunch of Sizzlers, but it wasn't really like his thing. He's a real estate developer. He wasn't like a business owner of other owning retail businesses. But I remember my father telling me that when I said, "Wow, this is so cool. These people built a Subway, and they're a business owner now." And he's like, "Not really. They've built themselves a job. They're their own boss. That's great. But they're the ones that have to be there 9 to 5 watching everything. They're the ones that have to operate it. And you can't grow exponentially like that. You need to walk in, it still functions. That's the key, because it's going to walk away, but you need to free up that time and that mental energy and capacity to put towards development, not operations. You as the entrepreneur need to be thinking, how do I take it to the next level, and be working on that, not maintaining the current level of the business and how it's operating. So usually that involves finding the right people. It's hard to run a business and really scale it without relying on other people. You have people and technology. That's your leverage. Leverage is actually the key word. So you either have to have really good technology, which is becoming more available. So you can replace people with technology to an extent. You have to have really good people. And it's the people part, that's a really hard part, because especially in American culture, the biggest limitation I'm seeing is, well, employees are lazy. They have their own self-interest. And so you have to figure out how to be a leader and motivate them to be going in the same direction as you, because if they're going a different direction, it's going to pull away from the direction, the vision of the company that you're trying to create. And I'm actually not a good manager of people. That's my weakness. So I have to find someone else who's good at managing people in order for the business to be able to grow. And that's been my biggest challenge. I think that's most people's biggest challenge. And when I talk to people who have failed at business, the result is almost always the people that they hired or the people that they partnered with. It wasn't necessarily the person who had the vision, who drive entrepreneurs. Direct failure. It was their responsibility. Everything's their responsibility, but it's their failure in choosing the right people and nurturing that relationship.
Yeah. It is complicated because just speaking for myself, I'm one guy as the entrepreneur. I tend to be the one with the vision. I tend to be the starter. I'm the guy that, says, okay, this is what we're doing. This is the name of it. This is what we're about. This is, the general vision of what we're doing. And then obviously, I lack, I have very good strengths in certain areas, but then I also have certain weaknesses. And then people that, you partner with and people that you work with, they may not necessarily have the same vision as you, and they have their own motivation. And it's a challenge, but still, despite that.
So here's one of the solutions that I've seen, because I'm thinking about your situation now too, in growing these businesses. And you don't necessarily want to manage people. You're a very hard worker, but you're also a visionary developer. And so, and you're one of these new age sort of, like all the things that the books talk about, how to build a business and entrepreneurship in new age, you are that.
Mm.
And to keep yourself out of a position of tying yourself down with managing other people, you hire consultants, people who are experts in their field, who they're not going to be your full-time employee, but they come in to do a specific job for a period of time. And you hire the best of the best, and you pay the extra expense to get the best of the best. Now, that means also requiring being able to feel out and weed out the ones that are good and bad, because these consultants will also be good at sales, and they're going to try to sell you on what they can do and make you overpay. So then comes in your ability to hire consultants, which is a whole other skill in and of itself.
Mm.
And that's another way where you can go to the next level without putting yourself in a position of, if you're not skilled at it, managing employees.
Right. Makes sense. And is that like, at what point did you grow your business by yourself? Like, what threshold did you hit? What was it? Just as soon as you made the money, you just reinvested it into a consultant, or did you have to learn? Or what point did you start doing that? Was that recent, or that sounds like a breakthrough?
So here's how I approach business, and this is not the way that I approach things is not necessarily the best. So I'll tell you how I approach it, but keeping in mind, I'm not advising people to do that. I do a lot of things by trial and error. I'm a run and gunner. If I want to start a business, I just do it. One day I just wake up and I say, you know what? For the next 14 hours, I'm going to build something. And then the next day I'm going to build it, and I'm just going to work through it. I don't do business plans that much. I don't map things out that much. I don't plan things that much. I just work really hard, and I have a vision of what the end goal is. Now, what would be a better approach is to actually map everything out as like a business plan, and then run it by other people who have entrepreneurial skills and who have good judgment that can give you feedback on it and maybe tell you some of the hurdles that you're missing. Because the risk with the way I approach things is I could put in months of work and then come hit a hurdle that I didn't think of, and it can be tremendously difficult to deal with at that time. So, and I went off on I do this. I go off on tangents because I'm accessing my memory, and I'm actually thinking, I'm being nostalgic. So feel free to pull me back to the question at any time. In fact, repeat what your question was.
How are you dealing with the YouTube situation? Because, you and I, we both, I used to talk about steroids a lot, and, obviously YouTube, they didn't take too kindly to that. Now they seem to flag my name. So I had to do a bunch of different workarounds. How are you dealing with the YouTube workaround for now?
So one of my friend's channels got deleted, and I drafted a lawsuit against YouTube for him.
Oh, nice.
And he would settle with YouTube to get his channel back. And it wasn't I wanted to help him, but it wasn't selfless. It was that because I'm a lawyer, if I file a lawsuit on my own behalf and the judge is unhappy with it, the judge can come at me as a lawyer and be like, hey, you're a lawyer. What the F are you trying to pull here? Whereas himself, he had more and push through the court. So it was successful, and I will be filing the similar lawsuit. I just haven't had time dealing with so much I'm doing, but I'll file the lawsuit to get the YouTube channel back, because what's happening is YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, whatever, is starting to become the main source of media. And we have a First Amendment right to free speech. And so there's a little bit of a constitutional crossover where you have these it was never anticipated that this technology was going to sort of take over our media, right? So now there's sort of this constitutional issue that these different mediums are limiting our free speech. And it's much more complicated than that, but you want to show the judge that we're going down a dangerous path of censorship, and how terrible that could be for society, and hope that they find that it relates somewhat to the Constitution because of the changes in technology, basically. So in the meantime, there's a lot of super fans that copied my videos and repost them and promote them. And then I also started the Anabolic TV site, which is uncensored and private server, and anything can go up on there, including 18 and over topless video steroid section. I'm continue developing stuff like that. And then there's also a coaching program called the Inner Circle for advanced bodybuilding stuff, which is uncensored. So it's but the problem is people are so, I don't know if lazy is the word, but I think it's lazy. They just go on YouTube and search for information, and they're either just too lazy to think about it, or they just don't realize how censored that YouTube and these social media sources are. Like, there's so many things that is true information that would be incredibly valuable to people that I can't post on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, or YouTube. Like, if you want to teach people how to cure cancer, because that is totally curable. There's lots of different types of cancer, lots of different ways to treat it, but just in general, that video is likely to get censored, and it depends how you present it. So if you beat around the bush, then you can get things to stick, but then the American audience who's not good at reading between the lines isn't going to get it. Mm. So you have a really hard time giving people information that goes against the system, the current medical system, financial system, and other systems that are incredibly profitable because they have an influence over social media. They're deciding what gets censored and what's not. It's not for the protection of us. It's for the protection of them, so that people don't have access to the information that could cost the big pharmaceutical companies money, or any big group that has enough lobbying power.
Yeah, I completely agree. In my industry as well, like picking up chicks, talking about what really actually causes a woman to be attracted to you. It's very frowned upon to actually talk about what actually makes what actually builds attraction between man and a woman. You can't even really talk about it nowadays. So, I think that YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, all of these politically correct social media channels, they're dying. There's going to be I'm amazed that it hasn't happened yet, but I think that at some point in the future, there's going to be somebody that comes along and makes a totally open source, blockchain based platform that allows people to just upload their true thoughts on things, and it takes off, because like you said, there's valuable information.
Maybe, but it all comes down to money. So what's funding Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube are these large corporations, and so their financial interest is what's being protected. So if you have one of these that's totally uncensored, who's funding it? There has to be enough money coming from businesses and people that benefit from uncensored information. And then you also have the government. These other corporation, everything will, for example, there are so many laws being passed that people don't realize that result in censorship, because the laws don't say censor this, censor that. The laws give power to those who control our media. For example, the FDA, I'm just give you one quick example. The FDA decides whether something's true or not. If the FDA says it, it's fact, even though if it's completely false. And the FDA is completely, for purposes of control and power, by the pharmaceutical companies, funded by the pharmaceutical companies behind the scenes. So now the pharmaceutical companies control our government, and our government makes the laws that protects the pharmaceutical companies, and the laws affect our ability to push information out. So if you put a website on the internet that teaches people about how to cure cancer, and this applies to anything, this applies to money and entrepreneurship, because the banking system doesn't want the money to go outside of the banking system. So if you teach people how to really make money and how to really build business outside of the American banking system, that's a crime. They will shut you down so bad, they will take all of your assets, and you'll be in prison for 10 years for teaching that information. Wow. So what they did is they passed a law to where if you put a website up and there's any illegal information on that, now you're a criminal for even hosting that information. The ultimate form of censorship that nobody realizes, now the American consumer, they think, oh, I have free speech. I can say whatever I want. I have access to whatever information I want. But meanwhile, behind the scenes, the government and these companies are prosecuting and eliminating all of these sources of information. So that now people think they have the freedom to make their own decision, but they're making decisions based on the facts and information that's being spoon-fed to them, selected information. So they don't actually have freedom of choice at all because they don't even know what all the choices are.
Crazy. Crazy. Like, I'm curious, like what type of, when you say that business information would be censored to, like real money-making information, what like are you alluding to there?
That yeah, we're not gonna put a lot of information on this, otherwise.
Oh shit. Okay. Okay. All right. All right.
I'll tell you a story or two off the record.
Please do. Please do. I'm quite interested in that. Okay.
I'll tell you what. Anybody who starts making a significant amount of money and looks in how to really protect that money is going to figure all this out. So it's not super relevant until you have enough money to where you become a threat to the financial system, until you're significant enough, because right now the control is so tight on anybody who makes, under a low amount of money. It would cost too much for them to escape the system. But people who have enough money to benefit escaping the system, they hire expensive consultants who are very private about the information, and it's all word of mouth. It's not something you find online, because anybody who publishes that is going to become a target. The government will get them, and the government will extract the information from them on who they gave the advice to in order to track down all of their assets.
Wow. That's crazy. That's crazy, man. That's next level shit. Okay. So just shifting gears a little bit, I want to also touch upon dating, marriage, relationships, just your thoughts on this stuff, because for those who don't know, Tony, he lives abroad, he does his own thing. He has like very non-traditional views on relationships. And I think that, considering what I do, like I teach guys how to pick up chicks. I teach them how to have relationships on their own terms, where they're not getting roped into marriage. They're not getting taken advantage of by, the grinder of the legal system, getting roped into marriage and getting half their assets stripped away. I just wanted to hear overall what Anthony thinks about that, because he definitely lives on his own terms when it comes to relationships.
Yeah. Here's baby mama 2.0. So I'll explain that situation and why I'm even here in the Philippines in the first. But sweetie, can you tell your cousin to don't use the internet, because I'm streaming a video right now. Internet sucks in Manila. Okay, when she comes, tell her not to use the internet. She streams a lot of video. And I'll tell these guys, don't use too much internet right now while I'm doing the conference call. Just until I'm done. Okay. So your question is about my approach to relationships, or like
just
the
overall,
style,
like what you think about marriage, relationships. Yeah.
Sure. I believe in staying in complete relationship. Relationship doesn't need to get marks. I believe when
hey bro, you're breaking
love that will love me, that will fit my quality of life. And okay, here, let me get closer to the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, so I missed the last like 30 seconds of what you were saying.
Okay, I'll summarize it by saying I stay away from most American women. And if I am an American, if I am in America, I choose women that represent more of my values. Like, I like Thailand, I like Buddhism, I like Philippines, which is actually a Catholic country, but it represents more of my relationship values. I'm a polygamist. I believe in having more than one wife or girlfriend, but actually I don't believe in marriage, because that's a contract with the government more than it is with the other person. And I was a lawyer, and I saw so many people actually. So you have to, my approach to relationship is actually extremely logical. And there's two influences. It's logical, it's based on a little bit of trauma of American relationships.
Yeah.
And freedom. And so people might see me, like this girl right here is a prostitute. And I went to one of the prostitute capitals of the world. And I said, you know what? I want to have a child. So I want to find a woman who's very experienced at taking care of a man, because that's what I want in a woman. I want a woman that's a 10 in bed, that's a 10 in taking care of me, that knows what a man wants, that understands a man. Now, you can always train a woman. You can find a woman that you're either super physically attracted to and try to train her how to treat you, or you can find a girl that knows how to treat you and you can try to work on her looks, like get her a boob job and everything. But I want a perfect 10. Mm-hmm. I could be with one girl if she was a perfect 10 in every way. I would still get bored with having sex with one woman, and we would have threesomes with other women, which is one of my favorite things. Mm-hmm. But I could be monogamous in so much that I could be with that woman, but we would be with other women too. I could do that. But what the situation that I ended up in is that the women, like she, for example, she doesn't want to do threesomes anymore. We started out doing threesomes. Heck, we started partying. She was a prostitute and an awesome one. And, her and me and my other girlfriend that would travel around the world with me had the greatest threesomes ever, group stuff and everything. And then all of a sudden, when she gets pregnant, like the brain chemistry changes, and now she's like a born again virgin. Now she's ultra conservative, like extreme, which is, I guess, good because, she's a mom now. So the way that I have it lined up right now is I like to keep like a closed circle of girlfriends that are committed to me. And then I mostly sleep with them. And then I'll just throw in a new girl every once in a while for the new experience, because with each woman, I get to be a different part of myself. I get to explore myself more. I get to do different activities. And I've never found a girl that's a perfect 10. So when I said I could be monogamous with one woman, that's if that girl's a 10 looks, a 10 with social skill, 10 with her career, intelligence, so, and that she's got a passport that allows her to travel the world, which not a lot of countries have a passport that allows them to do that. So I've never met a perfect 10, but I've met a 10 in bed, and I've met a different girl that's a 10 intellectually, and a different girl that's a 10 as far as social status. And so what I've done is I've picked a girl from each one of those categories. I pick the girl that's the best in bed, and I make her my girlfriend. And I pick a girl that's a 10 as far as social status, and I make her my girlfriend. And so, so I can get everything that I need, but I have to get it spread across multiple women. And I'm extremely honest and blunt about it. And I think the most shocking thing by far is that I publish all this content about me being polygamous. My movie came out. If you haven't seen the movie, watch the movie, Enhanced. It's on Amazon, iTunes, Vimeo. Eventually it will be on Netflix once it's approved too. But that gives you also some of the polygamy lifestyle stuff. So I broadcast it. You just look up Tony Hughes online and you're going to find a bunch of polygamy stuff in addition to the steroids and biohacking and entrepreneurship stuff. Hi, sweetie. What? 100 pesos. That's all that. That's $2. Yeah.
Not too bad.
Our allowance doesn't cost very much. And that's the thing, is like, you can afford to have, I believe you should have as many women as you can afford, not just financially, but emotionally and with your time and attention.
100%.
So why not have as many as you can afford?
Why not?
Yeah. So there's a summary. But anything else you want to know about it? It's working really well. But trying to get the women to all live under one roof, that's what I've not been able to do. I can get a girl to come over one night and a different girl the next night, a different girl the next night. I can have a girlfriend in Thailand. I can have a girlfriend in Philippines, in every city, which, by the way, this is no way. Many men, successful men, have these type of things going on. They just hide it. And so I broadcast it because I want complete transparency and honesty with all these women, because that makes it zero stress for me. I hate having to worry about a woman catching me or whatever. So what do? I get my women on the phone with each other. Not all of them can handle that, but I have them talk to each other. And they, they bicker a little bit about who's in first position, who's in second position and all that. But for the most part, I think that in the end, they like the transparency. Mm-hmm. Now, there's an element, women need romance, and they want to feel like that man is their only man. But when they're making love to me or when I'm with them, they feel like the only woman. I give them everything they need emotionally. And I think the biggest criticism I get, it's not a bad criticism, it's just an observation that people make that they think is true, and that is that I have so many women because I pay them all, or because I have a lot of money, which is hypergamy. Hypergamy is when the higher status men become very attractive to many women of lower status, and many women are okay with being with one man because they're reaching for a higher status, which works in a lot of the rest of the world. So I understand that's actually the type of relationship I have. But what people don't really see or hear too much is how deeply fulfilled these women are. And I know this because our communication is so open and honest. I give them 100% honest and open communication about how I feel, what I'm doing, who I'm with, and I also get that in return. And it just makes for a very high quality of life, high pleasure, and without losing the romance. Because the honesty is at such a high level that when I tell a woman that I love her, she doesn't doubt, she knows that it's 100% honest. I wouldn't say that, and I wouldn't make that connection, and I wouldn't be looking in the eyes, communicating non-verbally what I'm communicating unless it was true. And the woman feels so loved by that. Versus with a lot of men, women feel like they're always in the back of their mind. Is he just trying to get something from, what's his angle? What's really going on? What's he really thinking? No, I eliminate all of that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, you've definitely carved a way to achieve like abundance with women in your own way. And I mean, you definitely figured out a way that's completely unique to do that. Here in America, like what I do is literally teach guys how to do it with American women, which is it's a different type of grind. It's a very different type of grind where you have to. It's almost like playing a sport of some type. Like you've seen a bit of what I do. It's almost a bit of like playing a sport.
That was one of the top 50 highlights of my life is walking with you in New York, learning pickup, because you are in the most difficult environment in the world, picking up women. The resistance that they give you is unbelievable, and your skills enable to overcome it, but also your skills enable to handle the rejection is the big part. Because man, some of those women would crush you, and you would bounce right from it. And you know what? You got their respect for doing it because they know they're crushing you. And they know that most men will just whimper and walk away, but you hold your ground. And I was really impressed by that. And another thing I want to make clear is just because I have a lot of women and it seems like I've figured it out doesn't mean I'm good at pickup. I am not good at opening. It is a skill that I intend to develop more. I want to learn more from you about. I'm good at closing. I'm really good at closing. Always been good at closing. Yeah. But I'm horrible at opening. I'm good at shit testing because I am so authentic and I am so confident. And I have all of the qualities of an alpha. So I have that, but I haven't developed skills beyond that. Because what you teach also is you teach men who might not have a ton of money, who might not have a ton of success or a ton of confidence, how to, it's not exactly fake it, but how to show the best part of yourself, how to represent yourself the best and be effective and come across as authentic as possible. And I just kind of rely on my actual success instead of showing the best part that's best for pickup. And also, women communicate on a different level, and especially during that pickup phase, and that sort of communication and banter, that small talk, the innuendo, that's a skill that I intend to develop more.
Yeah. It's like whatever you can leverage, like it almost doesn't matter. But people always are looking for that next level. Like we've actually coached quite a few guys that were like really successful, and they were tired of getting girls with their success. Like guys who had Instagrams where they were posting with fucking pictures of their fucking Lamborghinis and shit and like all their money. And they were like, oh man, like all these girls just want me for this or whatever. And it's just human nature. We always want to reach the next level. So yeah, it's literally like playing a sport. Like I just came out from Lower East Side with my friend, and it's literally like playing a contact sport. And by the way, since we went out last time, what was it, 3 years ago nearly? It's the competition, the environment, the way that the women are feeling nowadays it's only increased because the way that women are hypergamous, right? So now women have access to higher quality men far more easily than they did even 3 years ago. Now they have things like seeking arrangements, they have Instagram. If they want to connect with a high status guy, it's very easy. They just slide in his DMs. And why wouldn't they do it? Why would they not, slide in the DMs of a really successful guy? So it seems like, the only way to win in America now is through, cold approach pickup and actually being good at it, and it's interesting, man. It's definitely interesting, but focusing back on what you're doing, man, it's always cool to see somebody who carves their own way in life and just makes a way, just finds a way to make it work. And you definitely did that in a unique way. I don't know too many other people that did it really like you did it. You built your business, you traveled abroad, it's just all you, and that's kind of what my whole podcast is about, is like, if you want to be that guy that just owns himself and is just completely unique and is completely, finding his own way in life, that's all the people on this podcast are doing that. And that's exactly what you've done. And before I forget, I got to connect you with my buddy Arash. I'm going to have him on the podcast too. That guy has like fucking 7 or 8 super hot women living with him under one roof. Like,
he did it. Okay.
And he'll just like rotate. I don't want to, diminish, any of the women that were in his life or whatever, but he's a bad motherfucker, bro. Like he keeps like 7 or 8 women living with him at any one time. I mean, he's just fucking awesome. I gotta connect you guys because you guys could. But anyway, man, I gotta cut this because I don't want to wake up everybody in the house. But we'll do this again, man. We'll do this again. It's always good seeing you. I got to take a trip out to see you, and we'll talk more soon, brother.
All right, Brad. Good talking to you always, and I'll be hitting you up with get some pickup and tips and tricks from you when I'm back to America. I'm gonna need it because I am spoiled overseas.
I got to come out to there, man. Shit, I'm tired of this shit. Constant struggle. See you later, brother. Thank you, man.
All right.
Later, bro.
Thank you.